Now let's turn to the big story in the UK today. A major U-turn by the government, which will make changes to its planned benefits reforms after a wave of pressure from Labour MPs. The climb down is a blow to Prime Minister Sakiya Stama's authority, as more than 120 MPs from his own party publicly criticised the government's plan.
Over 120 MPs had openly declared they would oppose the government's proposed changes to disability and sickness benefits. The initial proposal aimed to tighten eligibility for certain benefits and reduce others in order to save £5 billion. Now, Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall has addressed dissenting MPs in a letter, assuring them that people currently receiving personal independence payments, PIP, won't see any changes, and those getting the health component of universal credit won't face cuts either. However, individuals applying in the future will experience benefit reductions, though increased support will be offered to assist them in finding employment. Disability rights organizations will also be involved in discussions around these changes. Kendall stated that the government has acknowledged concerns from MPs who agree with reform in principle but are uneasy about the speed at which it's being implemented. She emphasized that these updates demonstrate Labour's commitment to protecting the most vulnerable, while also supporting job seeking, something she called a core Labour value. "I now support the revised plan," she said, "because I believe it's a step in the right direction. These significant revisions are a welcome development, and I'm genuinely pleased that the government has listened." In Ellesmere Port, located on the Wirral Peninsula, the earlier version of the proposal had sparked serious concern. Camille, who lives with epilepsy and receives PIP, while her husband gets employment support allowance, expressed alarm about the possible withdrawal of support. "They're talking about cutting universal credit and getting rid of PIP," she said. "We're already struggling, and things will only get worse. It's really frightening for me and for other families here in Ellesmere Port. We're all scared about the future." Jill, who is legally blind, said many people fear losing essential support, but acknowledged that reform is necessary. "The current welfare system is under enormous strain and is costing the country a lot of money that we might not be able to afford," she said. "Some individuals may be receiving help they shouldn't, and it must be incredibly difficult to eliminate fraud while ensuring those in genuine need continue to get support." The Conservative Party has criticised the government's U-turn, warning that failing to rein in welfare spending will probably result in tax increases. Meanwhile, the Liberal Democrats argued that the compromise reached still negatively impacts disabled individuals. Nevertheless, the government insists its main objective is to ease the concerns of those affected and make the benefits system financially viable in the long term. Damian Gramaticus, BBC News, reporting from Westminster. Health and Social Care Minister Stephen Kinnock described the government's reversal as a constructive outcome.
Now let's turn to the big story in the UK today. A major U-turn by the government which will make changes to its planned benefits reforms after a wave of pressure from Labour MPs. The climb down is a blow to Prime Minister Sakiya Stama's authority as more than 120 MPs from his own party publicly criticised the government's plans. Our political correspondent Damian Gramaticus reports. Sakiya Stama saluted this week as he visited Royal Marines training in Holland. But it's his own troops among his backbenchers he's struggled to control and who forced him into the most significant retreat of his premiership with this U-turn over key benefit cuts. More than 120 had said publicly they'd block his reforms to disability and sickness benefits. The original plan was to limit who received some benefits and cut others to save £5 billion. Now Liz Kendall, the Work and Pensions Secretary, has written to rebel MPs saying there'll be no change for those currently receiving PIPs, no cuts for those currently receiving universal credit's health element. New claimants will face cuts, but support to help people back to work will be increased and disability rights groups will be consulted on the reforms. Ms. Kendall said, "We have listened to colleagues who support the principle of reform but are worried about the impact of the pace of change. These are really important changes and shows how Labour supports the most vulnerable, and also this overall package is about helping people get into work, which is absolutely a core Labour value. I'm going to be backing it now because I think it is a good step forward and these major changes are very welcome, and I'm really delighted that government's been listening." In Ellesmere Port on the Wirral Peninsula, the original plan had left many deeply worried. Camille, who has epilepsy, gets PIP payments, her husband employment support allowance. They're going on about getting rid of universal credit. And cutting off PIP. We're going to struggle even more, and it's sad because that is scary for me and as well as other families around Ellesmere Port. We're all going to struggle. Jill is registered blind. She says people fear losing help, but change is needed. The welfare benefit system is very heavily used and spending huge amounts of money which this country really can't afford, and also there are a lot of people getting those benefits that perhaps shouldn't be, and it must be a terrible juggling act for people to try and stop all the cheats, make sure that people with genuine need are getting the benefits that they are entitled to. The Conservatives say the government's U-turn and failure to get welfare spending under control will come at a cost, likely higher taxes. The Liberal Democrats that a grubby deal will still hurt disabled people. But the government says its aim is to reduce the anxieties of those worried about the changes and put the benefit system on a sustainable footing.